Hi, Clutter Fairy fans. This is the Clutter Fairy Weekly for August 26th, 2025. I'm your co-host, Ed Gumnick, and I'm speaking with Gayle Goddard, certified professional organizer and owner of the Clutter Fairy in Houston, Texas.
Hi, everybody. Clutter Fairy Weekly is the webcast and podcast that digs deep into the clutter that piles up between you and the life you want to be living. We explore the habits and behaviors that lead to clutter, and we explore the habits and behaviors that lead to clutter, and we suggest strategies to slow the accumulation, reduce the collection, and comfortably manage the stuff we decide to keep.
If you're new to our Zoom meeting, we want to let you know that you can share your comments and questions via the chat, and I'll try to make sure Gayle addresses them before we move on to another topic. You can also use the raise hand feature if you'd like to ask a question or make a comment yourself via audio or video. And we're streaming the webcast live on Facebook. We hope so you can share your questions and comments there, and I'll relay them to Gayle, assuming I can actually get my hands on them today.
Right?
We're going to start by talking about last week's Weekly Tittle, which was called Dream Ahead. The assignment was to envision the safe, beautiful, decluttered space where you'll live your future life. Let's hear from our participants in Zoom and on Facebook who crafted or updated an organizing vision statement this week. Please let us know in the comments. Frequent contributor Ginger shared her Tittle report in a Facebook comment this week. Ginger wrote a fairly long report, but I want to share all of it because I liked every bit of it. Ginger says, we've had a written vision statement for years. We've been working toward achieving it. We're entering a new phase, preparing to age in place. Future me/us will, 1, spend less time decluttering and cleaning. To make this happen, we're leveling up with updates to our home. 2, we will write our family history, including photos and documents. I'll compile my years of research into a format I can leave behind. I will play with other crafts. I'll enjoy visiting family, perhaps a little travel. Hubby will enjoy fishing, cooking, and aggravating me. 3, we will have solved issues allowing us to age in place. We may install an elevator. We'll have simpler furniture and flooring. Our home will be in maintenance mode with no more big decluttering projects. We'll have just enough, use everything we have, and everything will be organized for easy retrieval. We will enjoy calm, relaxed, easy days doing things we enjoy and be ready for drop-in company at any time. We are retired and have time for our hobbies. In our hobbies, we work with things that interest us, challenge us, inspire us, engage us. We wake each morning looking forward to the day. We go to bed each night feeling accomplished, feeling satisfied, feeling content, and looking forward to tomorrow. And finally, 5, we will continue to revisit our vision statement at least twice a year.
I really love this so much. Ginger is preparing to be happy, content, and enriched in retirement. And she's mapped those goals so she's focused on attaining them. Everything she does is filtered through this lens, this very long, multi step lens. And she's working towards a plan of aging in place and living with content. What a great example of setting the goals to focus your work towards what you want in life. And really appreciate that you step in, drop in, and share with us a lot, Ginger. Thank you. And this is a great example to our other viewers and listeners of the kind of goal that you can plan and aim for, use as a filter for the work that you're doing. Am I doing something that is aiming to make this plan come true? And focus on that kind of work until you get to the place where you're living that dream. And I really appreciate that that's something you're going for. And I love how positive it is too. Like you're planning on being content and enriched and satisfied. And that's really, those are great goals to have. So thanks again for sharing.
I think Ginger does such a wonderful job of sharing the things that work for her and that she's had success with. She sets a terrific example for people in the Clutter Fairy community who are trying to do this work.
Hmm.
And I wholeheartedly support the idea of vision statements. I think everybody should once a year or so sit down with a clean sheet of paper, nothing you've worked on before, and write down this is what I want my life to look like. Here's my ideal day, or here is my ideal week. Here's what gets me up in the morning. And even down to the level of I get up every morning at such and such a time, if that's something that's important to you.
Or and that you struggle with, or that you
Yeah,
realize will make you more,
will have a big impact.
it'll improve your health, or it'll make you feel like you have more time to accomplish things or work with your energy level. And so deciding that getting up at a certain time is something that will enhance your life and adding it onto the list. Yeah.
And then keeping your statements somewhere so that you'll be able to refer back to them and see, like get to the end of the next year and be able to say, look at that. I am doing this thing that I just only imagined that I was going to be able to do a year ago,
When I started this,
or
yeah.
two, looking back at your vision from 3 years ago, 5 years ago.
Mm.
Jacqueline says, I made a decision to let go of some identity clutter. I was a science teacher for about 10 years, but when I wasn't able to find a permanent stable job, I stopped teaching. I had saved a couple of boxes of textbooks and teaching resources just in case I decided to go back to teaching. It has been 10 years since I've been in a classroom, and I can't see myself going back. I posted it on Marketplace, and they have found a new home. I also found a box of non-teaching books to declutter. I gave some to a friend and some to the library for their book sale in September.
Excellent. That's great solution to the problem. And I appreciate that, you had that experience of I'm a teacher and then I'm not a teacher. And so sometimes we think we're going to have a career, we think we're going to keep doing something long term, and it doesn't turn out to be. But, if you spend a decade doing it, you did spend a decade doing it, you spent some time at it. And so, whatever that was about, whatever season of life that was for you, and now it's complete. And you've given it a decade since you taught last, I guess is really what you said. And
Right.
so enough time has gone by that you're pretty sure that the books are probably not super current anymore. And B, you have realized that that's not the path that your life is going to go on anymore. And so I'm proud of you for releasing them. You don't need to hold on to them. Your life has shifted, and your contents are now reflecting the shift in your life, and that's good. And whoever got those books is going to be glad to have them. They didn't have to invest the money, they got the books, and they can make use of them instead of them just being in a box in your closet somewhere. So that was a good shift to make, and I'm proud of you.
Paula says, finished sorting through photos. Started with almost 2,100 photos,
Ooh,
tossed about 600, which is 28%. My remaining photos are in 6 albums.
awesome. Don't you feel accomplished now, like you have control over all those photos? That's awesome. And reducing it by, the essence is just a little bit over a quarter, means that you change some of your volume. That was probably an album's worth. You would have had another album if you kept all those photos. So you reduced it by collection, and now it's a manageable. You have photo albums that you can stick up somewhere, and
Well
you're ready to
done.
go. Yeah, yeah, that's awesome.
M says, by working on the tittle, I realized that I will have to move to have the future that will support my needs.
Oh, that's a good thing to know, isn't it? That's really amazing. So now that changes how you do stuff in the house. It changes how you make plans. If you realize that you're going to have to move to get there, then now you can start a new plan. You can go down the plan going towards that. That's wonderful. That's good to know. And then you get into that whole, okay, if I'm actually going to have to move, then, how much of this stuff do I really need to take with me? And, how's my space, square footage, volume going to change? My storage going to change? And so my contents need to change to accommodate where I think I'm going to end up moving to. What kind of place even if you don't know the exact place, you're going to shift to this kind of an apartment. You're going to go live with your kids. You're going to go move into a high rise. Whatever you decide that you're going to do, whatever plan. And so just start accommodating your contents to move towards that plan. It's a good thing to realize. I'm glad you figured it out.
Okay, I think I'm happy to see that it does appear that we're streaming successfully on Facebook.
Woohoo!
So yay.
Yay.
Okay, well let's get on to our main topic.
Mm.
Other people can be valuable companions in our decluttering and organizing journeys, or they can interfere with our best efforts. We have to be careful and mindful about who gets a say in our decision making. Today, we're going to discuss people who influence our organizing process and offer strategies for working with or around those whose choices impact the clutter in our lives.
We're circling back to our housemates again, our partners and families and neighbors and friends. We're talking about those people that either help or don't with the household's organizing projects,
Or somewhere in between.
right? We circled back to this topic because of a comment left by Carrie, who said, "When I am ready to let go of something, my family sometimes wants to keep it." This comment is a very straightforward way of saying my family gets in the way of my decluttering and organizing. So, first up, who are we talking about here? Who is coming to the organizing party at your house? With whom do we have conflict over clutter? So, top of the list, spouses and partners. Intimacy does not equal agreement on how to handle clutter. Roommates and housemates, neither does cohabitation mean that there's agreement on how to handle clutter. Children living in the house, these kids could be young children that you're still raising, or they could be adult children that have returned home after graduation or a brief sojourn out into the world, and they've rebounded back to the house as launched and returned adults. Adult children that are living elsewhere. So just because your kids have launched doesn't stop them from having opinions on your house or your stuff, as I'm sure you all know.
Or their stuff in your house.
Right? There's stuff in your house too. Elderly parents that are in the home or elsewhere, just like adult children, elder family members have opinions too, and usually are not shy about sharing them. And then there are neighbors, your own neighbors, the HOA, the landlords. Your gossipy neighbors might have and might share their opinions on your organizing style, but the HOAs and the landlords have the ability to share their opinions with legal repercussions. So, your partners in decluttering might be people who have legal recourse, which is, never fun.
Yeah.
Why does conflict arise between you and your partners? What is it that is happening in this environment? So, first, one choice is differing levels of tolerance for clutter or standards for what clutter means. We have talked about this endlessly in that everybody has a different threshold for at what point does the clutter seem like a problem? At what point does it start to be bothersome or make you uncomfortable? And not everybody's trigger point, not everybody's place, level, volume at which it starts to be noise in their head, it starts to distract them or irritate them or make them upset. We don't all get triggered at the same point. So there are definitely different levels, and whoever's in the house with you may or may not have the level at the same place, or they may not have the level about the same things that you do.
Right.
So some people get upset about the paper, but not about this, like yes on this, no on that. And you may have completely different yeses and nos in your house. And so the likelihood is that whoever you're sharing that space with is having a whole different reaction or tolerance level to clutter than you are. And you
Yeah.
have to work with that, right?
Well, and even like Jaime and I have pretty good parity about our tolerance for clutter. Neither one of us likes a lot of clutter,
Lucky you.
but we both have different things that we can look past. Like I can have a little pile of papers that piles up on the little table next to my
Where you work.
workspace,
Hmm.
and it becomes completely invisible to me very quickly. It never becomes invisible to him.
It's definitely not aesthetically pleasing. That's true.
Right. And
And
then conversely, I'm not gonna air his dirty laundry, but there are categories that he will willingly overlook that
that bother you.
I would just as soon have, boxed up and hidden away somewhere, please.
Right, right. Please make that go away. Yeah. So I mean, everybody has their own parameters around which it becomes clutter or it isn't clutter, and they also have this a volume trigger that at some point it starts to you can ignore it until this point, and then at
Right.
this point it becomes a problem, and everybody's trigger point is different. Another reason that people have conflict around this is that you have differing personal histories about stuff. So maybe you have, maybe you're old enough to have had Depression era parents or a history of
Or at least
poverty,
grandparents. Yeah.
right? Grandparents, maybe. Maybe you have a history of hoarding, or you have mental challenges like OCD or ADHD. So there may be things that are part of your own personal history that impact how you deal with clutter, how you react to clutter, how you feel about keeping things versus not keeping things, how you go through the process of making a determination that something can be released or not. And so everybody has their own history, and the two of you come with your own histories, and I'm guessing they're not going to be in sync most of the time. So that might contribute to the conversation.
And that includes
Mhm.
trauma, which at least
Mm,
a few
mhm.
people in our regular audience have mentioned, that trauma is a big factor in their dealing with clutter. And that and trauma ranging from, as small as my mom once threw away this thing that was terribly important to me, to
Kids
abuse
always
and
remember that.
yeah, up to, more serious
Crime.
trauma. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And all those, all that's all part of your personal history, right? And all of that stuff impacts how you deal with stuff and how you react to stuff. And so understanding those histories and how they affect, and then working together towards ways to deal with it despite the history or to cure around the history is becomes part of the journey for the two of you, right? There's also sometimes confusion about organizing systems in that the two of you might not know how to design or set them up, or you might not realize that what the system that you set up for you might not be a system that works for the other person, because your brains don't work the same, and you're not come from the same place. And so there's sometimes, I know people report being frustrated. I set up this thing that was supposed to help, and it doesn't help. And it's like, well, because you set it up for you, but not probably for them. And so that becomes a place where you have to talk to each other about, what if I tried this system? Would that work for you? And before you do it, and let them give you feedback about, no, that would make me crazy, or no, that I would never do that. So how can we modify it? Like, let's talk about what will make it work for you. So there is some interviewing and some exploration that needs to take place so that you guys are creating systems that work for both of you, or the system that is for partner A gets designed to partner A's per, perspective and preferences, and that the system that's designed for partner B matches their preferences. And so um, I think that's a step that not everybody takes,
Mhm.
and I just know that because that's how I deal with my clients. Like, it doesn't do any good for me to design a system that I would keep because I'm not going to live in the house. So it doesn't really matter. And it's super obvious, right? Like, I would say I would do it this way, but how do you feel about that? And then I get feedback from them, and they say no, and that wouldn't work for me because, and it's like, okay, let me modify it. So what if I do this? What if I do that? Until we get to one where the person goes, okay, I can deal with that. I could work with that. And then we set that up because, doing it to my preferences doesn't help them in at all. So
Because they won't do it.
because they won't do it,
They
because
just
it'll
won't
it
do
hit
it.
roadblocks, and it won't
Right.
be it's too much behavior modification, and too much going against the flow, right?
Yeah.
Like going against the river to make it happen. And so we definitely want the organizing systems to go with your flow and what you're willing and comfortable to do, so that it's not a struggle to make it happen. It's just something natural to make it happen. And figuring out what those systems are, um, you might go through some iterations before you get there. And so sometimes that's a conflict between couples, between partners, between cohabitators. Sentimental attachment gets in the way because we don't always agree about what's valuable and what's worth keeping as a sentimental attachment. So, you might be attached to your family stuff. They might be attached to their family stuff, but it doesn't cross the barrier, right? So, you do have to find a way to honor each of your sentimental attachments separate as separate collections because they're not going to be the same. The notions of value come into play as you deal with whoever is your partner in clutter. That the idea that it's sunk cost and you can't get it back. The idea that it's going to have a really high resale value. There's some notions about we're keeping this because we're deciding on what something's worth, and we're keeping it because we think it has value, but maybe those value constructs are not realistic. So it's really hard to be in alignment on this one. And sometimes you have to go through the exercise of, that there's not any resale value there. They believe that there is resale value there. And the only way to get past it is to let them go about the task of trying to resell it and having it come to pass as you expect, and then being able to move on from there.
Great comment from Naomi on uh out of sync styles. She says the sheepdog and the hunting dog simultaneously catching sight of a herd of cattle. One compulsively collects them into a bunch and one compulsively scatters them.
What a perfect example. I love it. Pew! The sheepdog just makes him go pew. I like that visual. It's a good visual. Thank you. Hey Ed, I want you to do the sabotage one because you told me the story originally.
Yeah, Sabbath the we talked about this just last week or the week before. We
Mm.
talked about the crabs in a bucket metaphor.
Hmm.
Um there I don't even know that this is 100% true, but it is said that if you put a bunch of crabs in a bucket, they will not escape. You don't even have to put a lid on it because as they try to climb out, the other crabs grab onto them to try to use them as a way to climb out and end up pulling the ones who've made the most success back in.
Hmm.
And so motivational speakers and people talking about how to work with other people will talk about how there will be people in your life who are crabs in a bucket who when they see you starting to escape from
To ascend.
the trap or the negative experience that you've been stuck in, they
Mm,
will try to drag you back in
right?
because it's just sort of an impulse that people sometimes have to sabotage. And I think it's related to the next one, which is sometimes when people see you making big changes in your life, it it
It
provokes
scares
fear
them.
of change.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, the,
And change really scares everybody, right? Like that's the thing. Nobody thinks that change is um, all excitement and thrills. Like some people are more willing to make change than others, but we all have some level of resistance to change because change is scary. And we have that resistance even though change is going to improve something in our lives. And so those of us that are more successful at it have the fear of the change, and yet we recognize that it's going to make a difference, it's going to be improving, and so we face the fear and we do something anyway. We acknowledge our fear and, oh, this is scary, and we still go about trying to make it be different. And so sometimes people just don't like the stuff moving around. Like you may be living with somebody who's like, "Oh, don't change it. If you change it, I don't know what's going on." It's like everybody, it'll be okay, and you can relearn where everything is, and it won't be a disaster if we make this better. And but not everybody sees it that way. They just see it as change that will make it different, and different is scary. And that's sort of where their mental processes stop about it. So you may be living with that person, you may be dealing with that person. And another way that people and partners in clutter get cross with each other is sometimes one of the partners will have some mental health challenges. as we age, there's cognitive decline and the rise of dementia that shows up and makes it more difficult. Maybe you have ADHD, OCD, anxiety levels that impact your ability to face the clutter, to execute the steps that are needed, to face the change, the challenge, the work. All of those may be impacted by some kind of mental health challenge. So, I have a I had a client, and she has since passed away, who I worked with her every week for years. And the first year and a half, she really needed help processing her mail and, opening it, dealing with it, filing it, shredding it, finding the things that needed to be done, the bills that needed to be paid. And she could not let me touch it. The idea of me touching her mail provoked so much anxiety that she just shut down. And it took her 18 months. She finally let me sit down one day to start working on the mail, but she had to go take an anxiety pill right in that moment. Like, she had to go get some meds in order for us to sit there and her not to completely tweak out about it. And over time, over the years, it got better. She got, less anxiety ridden about it. And I got the paper under control. So it was never a huge project again, like it was when we first started. And she was able to, like, she never loved it. That's the truth. She never loved it, but she did get to where she could sit down with me. She could trust me to do it. She would not panic. And she agreed with my, this is where we're going to file it. This is what we're going to do with it. This is what you need to do, blah, blah, blah. And she was okay with it. And one day she said to me years later, Gayle, if you open the mail every day, it's not as big of a problem. And I almost fell over when she said it. I can still remember the thrill of hearing her say that out loud and thinking, oh my God, the ship has finally turned around. Like, the cruise ship has finally turned around. And it took like 5 years for her to get there, for her to be able to say that to me unprovoked and unprompted. And it was just a stunning moment of achievement for me to feel like she had made that mental shift after all that time. But if somebody is dealing with some of these mental challenges, it is going to make your interaction with them around clutter more difficult, and it's going to have some more, roadblocks and challenges in it. So next, Ed and I came up with some characters. we talked about characters, the personality types of people with whom you might be interacting, and so we want to, tell you these characters, and then tell you how to deal with them, how to get around them. So the first one is the most exciting one. This is the positive one. This is the shining knight. So lucky ones of you might be living with a partner who fully embraces decluttering and organizing projects. That person gets on board and helps make the tough decisions, helps establish new systems, and helps equally with maintaining new organizing systems. So lucky you, there's no need for a workaround here. You get the experience of facing the challenge as a team with support and with a shared goal. And this is the jackpot partner in clutter. If this is the person you're working with, you win the prize. Everybody's jealous of you. I'm just going to say that right now. The next character is the critic. So I'm guessing that anyone that's listening to this webcast has a family member or a so-called friend who second guesses every decision that you make. They never have anything good to contribute. And instead, they constantly are criticizing you until you're really furious and hurt. They usually serve judgment on a platter. They just serve it right up, telling you your decision to keep something is ridiculous, or you can't keep up with the mess because you're being lazy. They often say something like, you just need to do it. It's not rocket science. Some part of them believes they just need to tell you what to do, and that will solve the problem. Yeah, this kind of a person is very counterproductive in your struggle against clutter. And if this is the person that you're interacting with, I have to say I'm sorry, because that is a walking negative Nelly tree that continues to bear fruit of negativity all the time. Nobody wants to be around that. So I will say this is really easy to counter, um, because truthfully, you just are anyway. We just need to turn away from that. So anyone that's living outside the house, they lose privileges to be in the house. If they come in the house and what they do is complain, then, surprisingly, you can just not have them in the house so they can't complain. If they have to come, they're related to you, they live there, it's your mother-in-law. Like if there's people that are going to come and you can't really tell them to not come, then, if they come and they start talking about your mess, then you can tell them, thanks for your suggestions, but I don't want to talk about that today. Let's talk about something else. And say it every time they start to give advice or make comments, etc. Refuse to listen or discuss it with them. And if you have to, leave the room when they insist on speaking about it. Who cares if they get frustrated by your behavior? You're already frustrated by theirs, so they can be frustrated too. And if that person lives in the house with you, then you get to have a different discussion with them. If this is your housemate, roommate, your partner, your spouse, then clearly they are going to leave. You can't keep them out. So this calls for a different discussion. So when they comment, you can tell them that their feedback isn't really helpful. It's not constructive or supportive. Remind them that you're very aware how they feel about it. You have not forgotten that they are uncomfortable with the clutter, and you're working on it in your own way. And then remove yourself from the conversation and honor what you said. Work on it in your own way. Keep working towards decluttering goals, despite anyone's negative feedback to the contrary. I know it's not very supportive to have someone actively shooting your efforts down, but ignoring them is the best that you can do now. And getting decluttered is the best thing you can do in the long run. Once the house is vastly improved, this person will run out of steam. That'll be the end of it.
If you haven't managed to run them off.
Yeah, right. Do you want to catch Pat?
Oh, yeah. Go
Hi,
ahead, Pat.
Pat.
Just very quickly, we had a family member that we always had difficulty telling to just stop talking about something, and our immediate excuse was, I need to go to the bathroom.
Oh, I love
There
it.
you
So
go.
I love it.
You walk away and hope that when you come back, the subject has changed.
They have changed their tune. Exactly.
Yep.
Oh, I love it. That's, nobody can say, no, you don't get to go to the bathroom. Like, I dare someone to say, stop, you have to stay here even though you have to go to the bathroom. Like, that's crazy, right? So that's a perfect excuse to walk away and to leave the room, right? Like, you don't even have to, um, you don't have to stay in the room with them so that the conversation physically can't continue. And you can walk out into the bathroom and be busy for 5 minutes and come back and, walk up to a different person, go on to a different task, do something different so that that situation is not recreated. That's a very neutral way to get out of it. I appreciate that. Thank you.
One more comment before we move on.
Okay.
Jane says, Jane reminds us, we talked about the neighbor who's critical of how slow my garage declutter has gone.
Oh, right. I remember her.
The reality hit me that it's much easier for someone else to critique what we're ready to let go of. She keeps things that I wouldn't. We're all different, and I need to take her input as just her opinion and let it go.
Right? It's just her opinion and it is super not helpful to you. So you really don't need to listen to it. And, and she has no weight in your decision-making process, right? Like whatever input she has nothing to do with your life and your stuff. And so she's just background noise over there, blah, blah, blah. And, in the meantime, you keep working on it and she knows you're working on it. And so, I want to say, stop your bitching. That's what I want to say. Good for you that you recognize that it really doesn't have anything to do with you and that, what she cares about is not what you would care about and vice versa. And so you can just allow her to be who she is and what she cares about, and that will impact her stuff. And it doesn't have to have anything to do with you. And I'm proud of you that you figured that out. That's good. Okay, so the next character we came up with is the standards police. This is the hyper organized friend who insists that you'll be more successful if you follow her philosophy or methodology. This person is certain that if they just show you how to do it once, you will suddenly be able to organize anything and all will be transformed. They have no concept of different brains functioning differently or of different comfort levels with one approach to decluttering. And so this person is trying very hard to sell you on their plan, on their way of doing it. And this is another person who you can say the workaround is, thanks for that suggestion. I'll keep it in mind. Thanks for your input. I'll think about it. And that's the end of the discussion. Once you've agreed that you will consider their suggestions, then you can turn around and walk away and go to the bathroom. Like Pat said, you can divert the conversation and move on. And I think this is a kind of person who, if this is who you're living with, that's a whole nother conversation. Like then you're going to have to actively negotiate with them about, okay, you are doing it this way, but this is why this works or doesn't work for me, why this system does or doesn't work for me. And so um, they may not want to hear you say that, but you have your right to assert that their process doesn't function for you, that they can use it on the stuff that they're in charge of, but that you are going to use different processes for the stuff that you're in charge of. And they, if they don't understand it, you have to negotiate that. I'm sorry that you don't understand that, and this is our compromise position. If it's somebody that doesn't live in the house with you, then revert to they don't need to come in and look. They don't need to come in and participate. They don't need to come in and make suggestions. And so
Well,
if they can just be diverted.
if it's someone whose opinion is important to you, you can certainly say, yes, I will, read the book you're recommending. I will experiment with the methodology you're suggesting, but ultimately I have to find what works for me.
Hmm. And that's true for anybody you're talking to ever, right?
Right?
However they support or don't support that process, whatever suggestions they make or don't make around it, you definitely have to be finding the one that works for you. And so there is a type of person who is super organized themselves and they feel like they just need to be your trainer. And
Right.
if that works for you, great. But if it doesn't work for you, then you can say that system is a good idea and I don't think it will work for me. I think I need to do something else.
Yeah. I think this also comes up with people who've embraced minimalism,
Mm,
uh, whether formally or in what they themselves call, minimalism,
sure.
that, they've reached what to them was a significant decision that, well, I only need 5 coffee cups.
Mm,
And so they will sometimes fall into the pattern of telling everyone, yeah, you need to just have 5 coffee cups. That's all anyone really needs. That's sort of, I also sort of see that as the standards police at work.
yeah, they assume the levels that work for them work for someone else.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's true. And we all have different we all have different thresholds, right? And so for somebody whose threshold is 5 cups, then more than that seems overwhelming, but
Or
that may not be true for you in your household of 5 or whatever,
right.
right? True. Okay, the next character that we came up with is the security guard. This person is vigilantly guarding their belongings and they're saying, "Don't touch my stuff." They're too busy protecting their things to actually hear any goals for managing the whole house of stuff or to accept help managing their stuff. They don't want you to go anywhere near their belongings or indeed even look at their stuff. They spend all their energy telling you to back off. And it always sounds so tough and aggressive, but it's actually from a huge amount of fear that they'll lose control of their things, that you'll take something away from them against their will, usually, that you'll hide something or toss something out that they care about. This person is a really hard nut to crack because they are so defensive and on guard already. And so the workaround for them is you don't ever want to start these conversations while you're standing in front of their stuff demanding that they work on it, or that while you are in the middle of a project. You want to have very neutral conversations, not when you're working, separate from the organizing, where you calm and sitting and comfortable, and then having a conversation about these are my goals around the stuff. This is how your stuff and the condition of your stuff is impacting me. And so, is there some way? Can we talk about how? Let's look at what it is that you are worried about regarding this organizing project. you can, in that moment, use that opportunity to say, I'm not going to throw anything away without your permission. I'm only going to, try to organize what you have, or try to support you in organizing, or try to get all of your stuff so that it fits into the room or it fits on the shelf that you have designated or whatever. I think it's really important to understand that the underlying back off, don't touch my stuff response is a huge amount of fear of loss. And sometimes I know that this is going to take so much work that I do not want to even face how much work it's going to take. And so don't make me do it. And so having a conversation separate from any action you're in or want them to be in, and just having a very neutral conversation around it. What are you worried about? What are you afraid I'm going to do? What are you afraid is going to happen if we organize this space and make it more functional and make it more livable, make it more comfortable for me to look at? You know, what do you think is going to happen? What are you worried about? What are your concerns? And let's talk about them so that you can hopefully dial down their level of defensiveness and their fears. And then you can't be a trick. You can't get permission to help them and then throw stuff away that they don't agree to throw away. And like, you have to agree to do what they want to do. But if you can talk to them separately and find out what it is that they're afraid is going to happen and make agreements about that. I agree to not throw away stuff that I agree that, it's okay for you to keep these collections. My only concern in terms of clutter is, how do we make it fit in the room? How do we organize it better so you can see it? How do we, that kind of stuff. So you can make clear your ultimate goal isn't to get rid of all his stuff or her stuff. Your ultimate goal is to right size it to the house, make it fit where you guys agree that it should fit, and for you to be able to live with it comfortably too. And I think that there's, with this person that's already so defensive, that separate conversation outside of the work until that person, and doing it until that person feels reassured and more comfortable and has clear goals and agreements from you behind it. And you got to do all that first before you can start. Before you stand in front of their room and go, this stuff makes me crazy, you have to do something about it. You can't start there. You
Yeah.
got to start somewhere else, right?
Well, and with the security guard, and also with several of the other people we're going to talk about, your last resort can always be to to be the change you wish to see in your home. Set a good example.
And work on your stuff and
Yeah,
none of theirs. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, exactly.
and hope that they absorb some of it,
Right.
some of your approach and your attitude.
And
And
we've gotten reports from people about that.
oh
Like,
yeah,
we have heard
definitely,
back from
yeah,
people that's like, I started working and then the husband was like, oh, this really looks better. Like,
yeah.
they agree that it's a good idea, and we'll suddenly start working after a year or 18 months or whatever. And you've made a big difference. And then they're like, oh, I like that. And they'll
We got
start doing something.
one of those. There was a YouTube comment this week about how the husband had gotten into, what did he get rid of? I can't remember now, but that entirely on his own with no prompting, the writer's husband, who had mostly been foot dragging, got into action and on reducing some of his collections.
Which is great.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need the example, right? So the next character is the foot dragger. This person hates the decluttering chores more than you do. They stall, finding anything else they have to be doing. They'll tell you that they can't start that until this happens, until they buy this thing, until their friend is ready to buy something. Their goal is procrastination because doing the work just overwhelms them and makes them irritated. And they'd rather avoid it at all costs, even if that makes you smoking hot mad while they do it. So sometimes you just have a partner that doesn't want to do the work. And ultimately, the solution for you is to not expect their participation and to work around them so that you keep moving towards your goals even if they are not willing to move towards them. And negotiating separately, uh, trying to get them to agree to do some work separately that you can make that a secondary front where you're talking to them about it outside of when you're working, and like I said before, when you're not standing in front of their stuff. But you can have those conversations about, I appreciate that this annoys you and this isn't fun for you and this is overwhelming, whatever, and I still have a goal that this house is, looks this way, functions this way, whatever, and we need to aim towards it. And so you can be negotiating on that behalf even while you're over there doing stuff yourself.
And this may be someone who would be cooperative if you set very modest goals. If you said,
Small
I
tasks.
would like your help on getting this dining room table clear.
Hmm.
So if you could give me 10 minutes this Saturday to help me with that, I would
On
really
this part,
appreciate it.
yeah. Hmm.
And getting someone who's really resistant and foot dragging and stalling, if you can successfully get their cooperation for 5 minutes of work, you may start to get a little movement going.
Hmm.
You may not.
You may not. And I think it's important to uh, don't spring it on them while they're
Right.
doing something else. Like,
Right.
agree to make an appointment to,
Yeah.
let's make an appointment where you're willing to give me your attention for this project for this amount of time. And then when that time is up, let them walk away. And you gave me 15 minutes and now you're out. Thank you. And be grateful for that, and make another appointment for the next time. The next character on the list is the penny pincher. That spouse that is keeping stuff because it might save money someday. We've already spent the money, so if we might need it, why would I give it away? They think they're saving money by keeping it all, and the workaround is really to show them all the ways that a problem can be solved. So if that person is keeping a million screws against, I might need a screw one day. This is just an example off the top of my head. Then you can um, pull all the screws out and say, so there's 2,000 screws here. Probably won't need all those.
Could you
We don't
pick
have to. We
could
can
you pick
keep
a
the
couple
screws,
hundred of the most important ones?
right? We can keep this. We can keep screws in the house, but we don't have to keep the volume. So how you adjust to a person that's keeping things to save money is that you change the volume of the stuff. So you keep most of the options. You just change the volume of the options, because this person that's saving has saved every screw they've found since the beginning of time. So there's plenty of them in the house. You just need to corral them all and let them keep 20% of them, and then you let the rest go. And then he still has the possibility of the screws, but not this. You don't have to contain the same level of volume. So that's the kind of stuff that you address the potential need by keeping a representative sample of the collection that they're keeping. And the longer you've been in the house, the bigger those collections are. So you can pick any collection at any point in time, pull it all out and say, we don't need all of this. Can you tell me what's the best 25% of it? And I will donate the rest. And try to get that use that method to dial down their collections against a possibility.
And I think you can also make the time is money argument
Right.
sometimes with the person who's concerned about the money that's already been spent, or
That's out the door.
money that will theoretically be saved somewhere down the road because we didn't have to buy this again. Well, how much time will it take? How much how many resources are we willing to put into storing these things? How
Mm.
much room will we allow it to take up in our home? And how long would it take you to find the thing you need in this category for that imaginary day in the future when it's going to come in handy?
When something suddenly shows up. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Okay, the next character is the best collector.
better.
The better collector. Yeah, my collection's better than yours. This person says my stuff is valuable collections and your stuff is unnecessary clutter. They believe you just need to get rid of your stuff because it's useless. All that really means is they're not interested in that kind of stuff. They're declaring things that you have interest in as meaningless because they are not interested in it. And the workaround for this is simple. Tell this person We both have a right to collections that we each find interesting. Just because you're not into it does not negate my right to have my collections here. We each have to right size, downsize the collections to the available space in the house. So I need to make my collection work in this designated space, and you need to make your collections work in that designated space. I will work towards that goal to make my collection fit properly in the allocated space. That's what I'm willing to do to deal with this space issue. And are you willing to do the same? So you have to own, this is what I'm interested in. It doesn't matter what you think about it. You have the stuff you're interested in. I have the stuff I'm interested in. And yes, we both need to right size those collections to our house so that they don't impinge on our functionality, so that we can actually find and see the stuff that we have and use them, and that, we don't overtake the house with our collections. Neither one of us gets to do that. And so you both can be aiming towards, my collections go in this space, your collections go in that space, and we have to right size to fit there. There you go.
We've seen extreme examples in comments and survey responses and such, where partners or spouses actually say in so many words, that thing that you have too much of that's just junk.
Yeah.
And I mean, like things that I think are sort of bordering on emotional abuse. And I think this is an area where outside counseling might be called for.
Useful, helpful.
Where because I think what underlies that is kind of a fundamental lack of respect. I don't, if your partner doesn't respect that you're into knitting, and so you have a bunch of stuff that you use for knitting, that's a problem.
Yeah, it is disrespectful to assume that your
Yeah.
collection is junk because they're not into it.
Yeah.
So the last one we're going to cover is Ms. Yes But. This person can wiggle out of any suggested solution for progress, for a fix to a problem, for a resolution to something that's halting movement. Yes, that's an idea to fix this roadblock, but we have to do this first before we can do that. But we need to get this information before we can do that. But we need to get rid of this thing first, and the next date to do that is 6 months from now. They're really stalling because they don't want to do the work. They don't actually want to make any changes. For whatever reason that is, whether it's emotional or protective of something, they will become the roadblock when you come up with a way to solve the original roadblocks. So the workaround for this is that first, it might be difficult to work around them, at least if you want their participation. So since they're avoiding doing things with manufactured roadblocks, they're committed to staying idle. So in this situation, you need to decide that clearing the clutter is more important than getting them in motion. You decide that it's more important to make movement than to get them in on it. I know it seems like they win by doing nothing, but instead you can think of it as you win because the clutter gets straightened up and you get relief. So go ahead and solve the problems. Get the roadblocks out of the way. Make things happen without asking for their help. Don't consider them available manpower. Just do it without them. They may grumble about it or get mad, but it's unlikely they will suddenly want to participate even so. Don't throw anything away without their permission if it's theirs, but for old stuff they're not using, you can box it up and label things in order to make it better organized. And there will be things that are obvious trash that are buried under the rest that you can throw away. And ultimately aiming towards your goal of working on decluttering and organizing the stuff that you care about so that it looks better. You're the one that's going to get the relief from it. You're the one that's going to reap the rewards of the work that you do. And if they don't participate, unfair as it is, their participation is not really helpful anyway because they're being so combative, and so they're creating so many walls to prevent you from moving forward. I think it's better to consider them an unworthy partner, a participant. They're not a good helper, and so don't hire the bad help. Leave them over there and do it yourself and get the results that you want. And I think that's the best way to get around that kind of person.
Okay, we had a late start, so I'm gonna
We're going
We're
to
going to
roll a
go,
little
let's
bit.
go over by about 3 or 4 minutes, if that's okay with everybody. I know some people may have to duck out who are with us live, but I want to answer just a few comments. So Jacqueline says, my partner sells baseball and football cards online. His
Mm,
workspace is the kitchen table. There's stacks of cards and small boxes full of cards covering the table, and he covers the whole thing with a blanket when he isn't actively working on creating listings to keep the cat off them. It drives me crazy because the whole rest of the room can be clean and tidy, but when the table of the middle of the room has a mountain of stuff on it, makes the whole room look messy and triggers me to want to declutter. It's
mm.
not contained to just the kitchen table. He is spread out and has piles and boxes covering the bed in the guest room and all over the basement. A few
Grr.
thoughts on how to move in the right direction on this?
So that's a big collection. And if he's selling online, I guess the question is he making money? Is this fun for him as a trading thing? Like, is he just enjoying interacting with other collectors of the cards? Is he actually making money from this? Is making money justifying him buying bigger collections? Sometimes people, they're going to sell it. I'm saying that in air quotes. They're going to sell it, and that makes them think it's okay to buy more than they would buy just for themselves. And so you have to ask what they're doing and why they're doing it. Is he just really having fun building the biggest collection he can build? And so I think regardless, clearly this is a hobby that he finds fun. He's clearly he's invested in it. So I think it's probably has it probably has been affected by scope creep. And that when he
Right.
started it, he had so many boxes and now it's kind of grown and grown and grown over time, right? So that's why it's spread out to other places. So I think having a conversation about, okay, clearly the volume of this has gotten beyond the storage, the available storage of our house. And you are spending time doing this and you're dealing with these boxes and you have way more boxes than you have time to list at any point in time. So we need to think about a process to manage, where you live, where this stuff gets stored. Having it be on the guest bedroom doesn't work for me. Having it be on the kitchen table doesn't work for me. You've got some of it in the basement. So do we need to convert the guest room to his hobby room and move it all in there and let him work in there? That may be the solution for you in terms of either you have a guest room for the occasional guest, or you have all of his stuff moved into a room that becomes dedicated to his hobby, and then it can't come out of that room. And that would give you your basement back. That would give you your dining room back. That would make the mess be contained someplace that you don't have to look at. You can close the door on. And it might be worth changing that guest room, surrendering the purpose of that guest room, and letting it become his hobby room. And that way you don't have to look at it all over everywhere because clearly it's reached a level that's annoying you. And so it isn't right to tell him he can't have his hobby. You don't have any idea without talking to him more why his volume is backed up so high. Maybe he's not listing as fast as he should. Maybe he's not doing it as, he's collecting things against the possibility of sale. And so I think there's lots of questions asked there, but I think the ultimate thing is this is his hobby. This is how he makes extra money. This is what he thinks is fun. And giving him a dedicated space in the house to it that is not your dining room table is the way to go there. And move it all into one place, and then you can close the door, which is your equivalent of throwing a blanket on top of it. And then you don't have to look at it. And he can have that room however he wants. And in the meantime, people that come to the house are not looking at your dining table like that. And you will feel much calmer in your dining room that way. And then you can move it all out of the basement, and it won't appear anywhere else but that one room. I think that's the best solution.
Okay, let's leave it there.
Mm,
Let's talk about next week. We
okay.
will be back next Tuesday, September 2nd at the usual time, and we're going to talk about clutter and the creative mind. When your efforts to declutter come into conflict with your desire to live a brilliant, original, and creative life.
To be a creative person.
Yeah, how our work as artists and craftspeople creates clutter and how stuff can both inspire and stifle us. So
Mm.
join us next week. I don't have a title for it yet, but watch your email in the coming days. I'm also going to remind everybody that October 14th, we'll be doing our next book club episode. If you haven't got the book, you've got about a month and a half. And
Get to reading.
the book is ADD Friendly Ways to Organize Your Life, Strategies That Work, from an acclaimed professional organizer and renowned ADD clinician. And authors are Kohlberg, Kolberg, and Nadeau, Nadeau, if you're still looking for that book. Why don't you give us the title?
This week's title is Reach Toward an Agreement. This week's assignment is to work towards an agreement to reduce the load of other people's clutter in your home. Identify somebody who contributes clutter to your space or your life. This could be anyone from a partner who refuses to respect the rules you've set for common areas to a dear friend who insists on giving you a gift at every visit. Write down a few statements about how the other person's clutter and the related behavior adversely affects your ability to manage your space. Note the feelings and the emotions you experience in the situation. If you're ready for the conversation, share your statements with the person in question. Be prepared to explain the organizing goals towards which you're working and how their cooperation could help improve your space and your enjoyment of it. If you're not ready to have the conversation, reflect on at least one simple request that you could make of the person in question to enlist their help in keeping from adding to your clutter. So one little task that they could do that would reduce their impact. Make a note on your calendar to return to this exercise in a few weeks. You may find that you're ready, or at least more ready, to ask for the changes you'd like to see. And then write about it and come and tell us about it next week. We'd love to hear about it.
Okay, if you're watching this on YouTube, we would love for you to join us live. To get notifications about upcoming events, we invite you to join the meetup group by visiting cfhou.com/meetup. You can also follow us on Facebook by visiting cfhou.com/Facebook, or join our mailing list by visiting cfhou.com/subscribe. We love to hear from you, so please keep those questions, comments, and topic suggestions coming on YouTube, Facebook, or anywhere that you find us. You can always reach us through our website at clutterfairyhouston.com.
Thank you, everybody, for joining this week. We really appreciate that you do. And I hope that you got some useful information about working with your partner in crime about clutter. And we look forward to your comments about it. And we will see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.